There are no birds shown explicitly in the cave, but there are a number of them. The main prominent position of the end chamber has a bird, and under its left wing is a coastline of Australia, and we will have a look at this Southeast Asia region. The beak and the eye, and then these wings look like they're hanging out to dry position, and there's also a spread wing like a flying position there. In this spot is cracks in the wall that form a bird flying. In the South Brunel chamber is a panel of red hands that mark out an eagle statue. And that eagle has a human arm holding a small pole, and it also has human-esque hands. Under the left wing in the end chamber is this. This is Myanmar here, which runs off to the Andaman Islands. In here is the Thai and Malay Peninsula, like that, which then spreads out towards Java and what was the Sunda Plate. Here, how it curves in is because this was land and this was underwater. This is the Mekong Delta in here. Has these little islands, has these islands here as well, which are here. And it comes around to this peninsula of Vietnam before the South China Sea, like that, with the Hainan Peninsula or island. There are shapes in here that match these areas. Where the bison steps onto the lion's eye, we see an eye shape. There's this long horn and the short horn. There's this parallelogram shape. And above it, we see this blank shape. The Chauvet cave is at the bottom of the Alps there. So directly next to it is this bull. Basin. And this pathway comes down. The leg is here, which comes up to an underarm shape that goes all the way back like that, all the way back. This angle on top gives it away as that area. Here we have the two ears of the lion that look like a kitten looking upwards. Here we have the lion's mouth, some whiskers above, and some more whiskers before the nose. Horus and Seth were brothers and gods of ancient Egypt. They were warring, and Seth took the form of a bull and stepped on the Eye of Horus. He broke it into many parts, and later Thoth repaired the eye. So where the leg of the bull meets the Eye of Horus, the Mediterranean, it separates into many parts, and this is a authentic amulet, and it's showing the separate parts of the Mediterranean as they were at that time. So this was a sea and separated by this ridge. This was existing here. Was also a separate water. This hill was surrounded by water in this lake, which is also an ancient sea. The Eye of Horus was on the prow of the boats of ancient sailors, and we're told it was there to keep them safe, but it was also a map of the Mediterranean. Boats also feature in the rock art of Sulawesi and Australia. Good sized boats with good numbers of people, but reported as burial ritual boats, just like in Egypt. 16,000 years claimed for this sailing ship with a rudder, and there are reports from the Kimberley of even larger boats with larger numbers, but we do not have photographs of those yet, so we're hoping they will emerge sometime soon. They should be great to see. We're getting into paradigm busting territory, but nevertheless, from the same blog or article of Seth and Horus story was this leg of the bull star chart. The Pleiades was always the leg of the bull, and from Germany we have the same shape. Chauvet is the pointer. Which I'll get around to showing what that points to in my next one. In Australia is the Seven Sister Dreaming. It's in every tribe, has a variation of this story. The Seven Sisters are always on the run from a man, Usually one of the sisters protects the rest by standing up to the man. And Seven Sisters dreaming or Seven Sisters myth is in ancient Greece. It's in the Americas and many other cultures, without explanation for how that happened. This is from an exhibition, and the songline crosses Australia. It goes through Uluru, and right nearby is Cave Hill, which is the cave of the Seven Sisters. It has this artwork with the circles and the faces coming around in the Pleiades shape. And it's turning out now that the Australian Aboriginal was quite an astronomer. Here is the dark spaces within the Milky Way, making the great emu in the sky. He is etched onto the rocks in Sydney from head to toe. Here is a stone circle dated at 12,000 years old in Victoria that shows solstices and equinoxes, and also seems to have a stone arrangement reflecting Orion. When they started talking to the local Aboriginals about their dreaming from Carnarvon Gorge southwards, they discovered that the constellation actually matched and mapped where the roads go now. And then they realised that they'd put the roads where the trails, settlers followed trails that were made by Aboriginals. The original dreaming comes from the stars and is used for learning and travelling on the country. We're still following them today without knowing them. It's a fantastic story. Lascaux Cave is dated around 16,000 BC, 20,000 years nearly after Chauvet Cave. It has the same arrangement of Orion's belt pointing its way to the Pleiades through Taurus. However, Aboriginal Australian did not wear a belt and did not have a sword. So in the original story, it was man's genitalia, which is demonstrated with a circumcised penis, and there's erect. This is an eye of a dolphin here. Circumcision was an initiation rite in Aboriginal Australia, in common with Egypt. Another unexplained connection. And here we have this line straight through Taurus and reaching to the Pleiades. Here is the bump of the Basin. It comes down to the horns. Here is the mouth. Here is the short leg. its V, and this leg actually has all of these leaf shapes. You can find them all, and these lines, they're all there. On top of the bison is a little bird. These stars are all shown in a row and down to the leg, the lower front leg, and then the other side comes down, and then there's a V shape. That's how the constellation of Taurus runs. Here are some other diagrams of Orion pointing towards the Pleiades. On the wall we have a bunch of stars all in this P shape. And I noticed on one of our charts of Taurus, they have the same shape. Right there on the front shoulder. The first modern humans in Europe were called Aurignacian. Their arrival coincides with the starting date of the Egyptian and the Sumerian king lists, and the dates of creation of the Phoenician and Chinese histories. They ruled until 13,500 BC, which is basically a period of precession. They were called the Kings of the North in the Turin Papyrus. They made sophisticated stone points and spear thrower, just as the Aboriginals did. Here are some of the art techniques. They're using charcoal and ochre and engraving the walls and modifying the walls, cleaning them and remaking. One of the better looking horses. And in contrast to the art we know they're capable of is a panel of white scribble. On the backside of Uluru is a cave of the southern Marsupial Mole. It's a creature of the Western Desert and it's associated with Uluru. The local people, Pitjantjatjara, are very fond of it and are able to catch it, but it is rarely seen. It can sink under the sand and swim and lives under the sand. We can see these claws and these claws, quite good match, and the tail. It's a blind one, but it does have an eye. Here is a 100-year-old ceramic made by Indigenous, showing the colours correctly, white and red. Nearby are some fellow Australian animals, including the tawny frogmouth, which has these distinctive fine feathers above its beak. Here is a large eye, and we can see the markings of a larger one with more of these feathers. In the Nullabor, underground is large caves in the limestone. This is a kangaroo in front of an entrance. Most of these entrances just drop straight into the earth. They fill up with water. There is art in them, and this is somebody diving just to show how much water they get in there. The art, unfortunately, is all close range and clipped off, even though there are straight lines, and there is a lot of more going on with it, but we can't see. Those caves are in the Nullabor, but all the way from the Gulf of Carpentaria around to Sydney is the Great Artesian Basin. It fills up from Lake Eyre and holds enough water to cover the whole globe with a foot of water. There are no photographs from in the basin. This is called fluting. It's in the Nullabor caves, and this piece unfortunately clipped off on the sides and top, but it's another coastline of Australia. I'm going to do a short presentation on that, but here is the X of the Flinders Ranges and Spencer Gulf. Here is the extra piece of submerged coast from paleo coastlines, Nullabor Plain, Gulf of Carpentaria, Barkly Tableland, and rivers flowing down into Lake Eyre. And here is a piece of panoramity. They are pecked out, not painted rock art. They are the oldest forms in Australia. And if you know of the Dogon, very interesting African tribe with star knowledge that they should not have. We find their god, the Numo, in the Australian ancient rock art. So this one Australia, this one Africa, this Australian Aboriginal, this Dogon in ceremony. There are many other matches between these two cultures being talked about. Ochre is blown onto the hands at all three sites at the same time, 40,000 to 35,000 years ago. Ochre was also used on the bones of the deceased before they were buried with ceremony in both Australia and ancient Egypt, where they believed in reincarnation. Again, Australia and ancient Egypt, really matching cultures with the original forms coming from Australia. That's all for this one. There's a short presentation on the Nullabor cave find, and there's some more presentations coming soon.